It's just so great to be back here. Just as an aside, both sets of my grandparents were born in Berks County, were buried in Berks County. I was born in Reading Hospital. I grew up going to Shells. I confess I stopped there for hot dogs before I came there. I even did my undergraduate, I went to Albright as an undergraduate. You know? So it really is like coming back home here. So it's so great to be in your presence tonight. But now it's my job to be here. It's not your job to be here. You came out to talk about this important issue. You know, have you noticed how gorgeous it is outside? Yeah. Oh my God. You know, I was thinking about playing some miniature golf before I came here over at Shells. And there's a million things you could be doing, but instead you came here to talk about this important issue. And I'm so very grateful that you chose to do that. So thank you. And, you know, we're here to talk about recreational adult use marijuana here in Pennsylvania. And the person sitting next to you might feel very passionately about it one way, and the person sitting to your other side might feel very passionate about it the other way. I personally think it's important that we spend time around those that agree and disagree with our views, and we hear other people view that. You know, tonight is our 34th county on this tour. We're more than halfway through. I've never once had to demand civility from an audience, you know, on this tour. I've never had to ask for it. It's always been offered. So I just want you to know I am committed to establishing a secure place where you feel secure in sharing your views, whatever they are. You can be all the way on the pro side. You can be all the way on the con side. You can be undecided. You are safe and free to share your views. So I ask, if you hear something that you like, feel free to applaud. If you hear something that you disagree with, please, no booing, no jeering, no any of that. Because we want to make sure everyone feels good about what they're saying. To that point, I'm honored to stand in front of your local elected leaders that were all gracious enough to join us.
Keep this short and sweet. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, whatever your side is. But I've been clear since day one when I ran that not only did I support medical marijuana, but I support legalization of marijuana. To me, it's absolutely ridiculous that we have other states going through this process and getting it done. Here, Pennsylvania is always behind the eight ball, always last. There's been a lot of people, party in this room, that have been self-medicating themselves from young age or whatever, from traumatic experiences. And it's our time that we get this passed for everybody in this Commonwealth. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm looking forward to listening, everybody.
Thank you very much, State Representative Mark Gillen. I represent Southern Berks and Northern Lancaster counties in the legislature. I want to commend my good friend John Fetterman. This is my second visit to this format since I represent portions of two counties. I went down to Lancaster County. I think it was overflow, John.
450 people.
450 people. Okay. So did Berks County win? Or I don't think we're 450 yet.
Still people coming.
I think so highly of this format, and John is traveling out on a substantive policy issue journey, researching, analyzing. I want John to come back to Berks County for a substantive policy issue that I hear something about every day. So, John, I want you to come back to Berks County on property tax elimination.
My 67 county tour is What's better, Sheets or Wawa?
I don't think I can start with Berks County as my response on this particular guy. Let me, instead of making policy statements, let me just share a very short story. We had the medical marijuana vote coming up in the State House going back a couple years, and I thought that I would call my mother to have her weigh in. She was 91 at the time, she is now 93 years old. I asked her to share her perspective with me on medical marijuana. She told me a story about my own brother who passed away a number of years ago. He had cancer and he was addicted to opioids, he was addicted to painkillers during the course of that journey. And the only thing that gave him relief from his nausea and his pain was marijuana. And my mother said, Mark, I'd be very comfortable with you, not only for his memory, but for those that have ailments that medical marijuana could give them hope in the future, or I'd be encouraged if you vote yes. And I did vote yes on medical marijuana. And I hear you on it being Schedule 1 ought not to be there. I hear you on decriminalization. I had a meeting today with Mary Joswiak on that particular issue. Hear you on expunging. Now, I invoked my mother as I close. I asked her about recreational marijuana. And she said, I'm not so sure about that, Mark. She itemized a very short list of public safety concerns, and I share those very same concerns. But I'm going to sit up here the entire time, and I'm going to hear you, I'm going to listen, and I'll do what I did in Lancaster. I stayed an hour after the meeting was over. And that's what representative government is about, and I applaud all of our elected officials for being here tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. In Berks County, you didn't disappoint me. I knew we would have a great turnout here tonight, and I really appreciate you making the effort to come out and speak and make your voices known. I don't know if you've been watching the forums that the Lieutenant Governor has been doing on PCN, on Pennsylvania Cable Network, but I have. I've actually seen a few of you actually at some of the other ones that were held throughout the Commonwealth. They're very impressive, very thoughtful, and the remarks that I've heard people make have really made me stop and think, as a legislator, where should we go with this? I happen to have family in Colorado, which you know is one of the first states that legalized recreational marijuana. The sky has not fallen. However, I also hear from people who have said, you know, I'm concerned about this. I'm concerned particularly about our youth and how we write legislation or develop policy that makes sure that it doesn't get into the hands of youth that this may severely impact them. So I'm here to hear what you have to say, and I totally agree with the Lieutenant Governor. We should be respectful of everybody's opinion, because that's where we're at. This will be a legislative initiative when it starts, if it does, because that's the way it works in Pennsylvania. Legislation has already been introduced in the state Senate. Has not moved yet, and I would think that it will wait until the report comes out from the Lieutenant Governor when that's actually done. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to keep on the charge on him. As you know, I've been working hard on that, making sure that we make that to our farmers, and definitely to take advantage of all the products that you can derive from hemp. And even that is somewhat of a heavy lift too. So let's hear what you have to say. It's your turn to talk now. And I'm really, really anxious to learn what you think. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Senator. One last thing. You're of course free to leave at any time, but we do something very specific and I think important. At the end of the meeting, when everyone's spoke that's had the chance that wanted to, I asked the room, all by a show of hands, all those in favor, aye. All those opposed, no. And all those undecided. So everybody in Pennsylvania will know exactly where that room was in Berks County that night. And you're going to be able, when this is all said and done, you're going to be able to go to every one of Pennsylvania's 67 counties and see where you were, see where the room was in Blair County, in Erie County, in Northampton County, you name it. You will know. And so it's really important, and I just want to emphasize, you have 3 ways to participate in this grand engagement. My Deputy Chief of Staff, Shivanya, is right over there. She has handed out comment cards, and please know that our staff analyzes each and every single comment card, and those results are being amassed on a rolling basis. Online, you can weigh in online, and my understanding now is we're over 30,000 of your fellow Pennsylvanians have done just that and weighed in online. And finally, tonight you have the option to come up to the microphone and say what's on your mind. And again, the meetings are being recorded, and all the comments are carefully recorded and analyzed. So I would ask that you keep your comments, 1, limited to recreational marijuana in Pennsylvania, and 2, to around 90 seconds to make sure we afford everybody a chance to speak that wants it. I understand there are some individuals in the room with mobility issues, and we will bring a microphone to you to make sure you can weigh in on this as well too. So enough of my yakking, and let's get talking. Please form 2 lines at the microphone, and let's talk about recreational cannabis.
My name is Les Stark, and I'm the executive director of the statewide organization
Mark Rozzi, House of Representative.
I live right here in Exeter Township in Berks County. Lieutenant Governor Fetterman, welcome back to Berks County, and welcome back to Reading, the home of your birth. You have come to the place where it all began. The first documented use of medical cannabis in the state was right here in Reading, when Dr. Isaac Heister cured Charles Sassaman of lockjaw and used cannabis indica in 1846. When Dr. Heister first used medical cannabis, cannabis in the form of hemp had already been grown in Berks County for 100 years, with dozens of hemp mills in operation all over the county. Dr. Heister was of the famous and prominent Heister family, and he was elected as the first president of the Berks County Medical Society. He published his findings on cannabis in the New England Medical Journal of Medicine, and by the 1850s, cannabis could be found in every pharmacy in the state and advertised in all the early papers. For the next 80 years, cannabis was one of those prescribed medicines, and people could get it over the counter at many enterprising Pennsylvania Dutchmen grew their own. In 1919, the country imposed alcohol prohibition, and it lasted until the end of 1933. Berks County had a large German population, and brewing beer was in our tradition, and therefore Berks County has a proud history of resisting alcohol prohibition. Berks County during Prohibition is quite an interesting story, and I encourage everyone to look into it. The resistance here is strong, which you can be proud of that. During the days of alcohol prohibition, cannabis was perfectly legal, and it was during the 1920s that cannabis became a major presence in Pennsylvania. In November of 1932, a man from West Lawn named Chester A. Moan was elected to the state legislature. He took office in January of 1933, and by March he introduced a bill that banned marijuana. It sailed through in record time, was signed into law by Governor Gifford Pinchot on May 22, 1933. It went into effect on September 1st, 1933. Curiously timed, because that was right around the time when national prohibition of alcohol was ending. In the election of 1934, Chester Moen was defeated in an overwhelming landslide. The people of Berks County rejected him as completely out of step with their progressive values. Moen's
We
career
really need to,
Moen's career lasted just 2 years, but we've been stuck with the madness for the last 85 years. Think about that. 85 years. Is there less pot today in Reading than there was in 1933? Of course not. Does anyone believe that someday there will be no pot in Reading? Of course not. That day will never come. Politicians who oppose us are fighting the losing battle on the wrong side of history. Together, we are going to consign the prohibition of cannabis to the ash heaps of history and the dark abyss of oblivion forever. Since 1965, over 25 million people have been arrested in the United States and they have served collectively over 20 million years in prison. Collectively, human beings have languished in the jails of Pennsylvania for hundreds of thousands of years. The level of anguish and misery we have faced is too deep to fathom, too horrific to even calculate. I have so much to say, but the time won't allow. I want to talk for days on end. I want the people of Pennsylvania to know the horror they've subjected us to, the pain, humiliation, subjugation, fear. They hunted us down with an army of undercover narcs. They flew over us with helicopters and ran us over with bulldozers.
Sir, we're going to put you down in the firmly pro category.
Lieutenant Governor, thank you for coming out, all of our officials here. I'm going to try to keep this brief, but essentially, I'm for the legalization just for various reasons. For starters, with the whole war on drugs, essentially, as we heard over here, we're going to keep having these issues, and that's the type of issues that funnels the violence from Mexico that we see. So if we're able to do that here in Pennsylvania, that'll actually remove a lot of the violence. People are concerned about people driving high, but unfortunately that happens right now anyway. So people go to jail for that currently, and with our current laws, I know people personally when I was in college who smoked marijuana and weeks later have gotten a DUI and went to jail, and I don't think that's right. Enforcement of our laws can be pretty spotty. It's really can be to an officer's discretion in how he feels about people, and so many people are unjustly in prison. And we really just need to look at facts such as alcohol and tobacco being bigger gateway drugs, that the fact that they're trying to make a breathalyzer for weed, and the fact that teen use of marijuana in states where it's legal is actually down. In states like Colorado and things like that, high schoolers and things like that rates are down. So.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Adrian J. I'll be a lot shorter than that.
Sir, could you adjust the microphone, sir?
Is this on? Hello? Yeah. Myself, I've never used marijuana, so I'm talking from a completely neutral perspective. I am in the pro camp.
I'm sorry, you're what, sir?
I am in the pro camp.
Pro, okay.
Okay, but I've never used it before. So, 3 points. Obviously, the no-brainer is that we dismantle the black market, we decrease gang-related violence and law enforcement costs. The second is it could be an advantage for Pennsylvania's agriculture. I think this is a great potential for economic benefits. And the third, which I hold closer to my heart, is this is consistent with our liberties and freedoms of choice. They can choose not to use it, but I would love to have the opportunity. Thank you.
My name is Scott Monroe, and I'm definitely pro. I'm an associate member of the law enforcement partnership, and I'd just like to say one thing. We start out with Einstein's quote of the definition of insanity. It's when we do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. And here we are, almost 50 years later. The war on drugs was started in 1970, October 20th, by Richard Nixon, who himself was an alcoholic. And the governor at the time, Raymond Schaefer, was picked by him on a commission to see whether or not we should criminalize pot. They said no, they shouldn't do it. Well, Nixon didn't listen to it because he had an agenda. And if you all know John wrote in the statements on why they started the war on drugs, it was to demonize the blacks and the anti-war hippies. It's a war. I was at Woodstock, and I saw Abby Hoffman get booted off the stage. He was trying to bring the point out of John Sinclair. He had a 10-year sentence for 2 joints. Well, guess what? The 3 executives that pleaded guilty to misdemeanor or misbranding OxyContin, they paid $34.45 million. Paltry little sum for billionaires, but not one of them spent a day in jail. Now, we're gonna have a real representation of what this stuff is all about. And let's legalize it. Stop the opinions and the superstitions. Let's get down to science. This stuff has been researched at like various different people. The Israelis are way ahead of us on this. I mean, this, you know, like Bob Dylan said, the times they are changing. They need to get out of the way. They're ever shrinking minority.
Okay, thank you.
Like my husband, I've never used marijuana, but I'm a physician and I did take care of people who did or who do. And I think I have a perspective over things that are, you know, it's a little more detached. And one hand, I saw the benefits of it and how it helped people. And the second, I really saw the, you know, the problems with it and the fact that, yes, there is a group of people that may have a reaction to it, they may have psychosis, or young people seems to be more sensitive to it. However, what I think it is that criminalization means lack of control. So I am really for allowing legalization of it. However, it needs to be done, you know, needs to be more control over how this is done. You know, I think allows for more purity. I think a lot of side effect and problems are because of the black market. You never know what you get. As physicians, we never know what we treat. And also, it would allow better science. It would allow the opportunity to actually conduct real studies to figure out exactly how it should be used and how it's safe and how we can treat or deal with side effects. So because of that, I really think we should legalize it.
My name is Jessica Young, and I am for legalization because personally, my life has been turned upside down. I am a medical patient. I've been charged with a DUI. I've lost my job. I've been put through the ringer, told that I have to admit that I'm an addict. I have a problem. I was on my way to be a jockey. I was doing good. I can't do none of that now, and since then, the cops have tried to get me to be parts of Oxycontin and heroin bust because I must be a part of that because I'm part of the drugs. And they say, well, you know, the dispensaries sell heroin. In every way, I've been targeted. I'm not a criminal. I just use it for pain because I've been told that I have a condition because I've broken my back quite a few times. I'm gonna need surgery and I may never ride a horse again. I believe if they allow people to choose for themselves, it takes away that from everyone. They can't target us, they can't wrongfully just take our money and just charge us and ruin our lives. I'm 25 years old and this is going to be on my record. I now have to fight for possession.
It doesn't have to be on your record. I chair the board of pardons. You can apply for a pardon where you're specializing and where you're adjusting that. So I would encourage you to do that so that it doesn't punish you for the rest of your life.
Thanks for coming tonight. This is very important for our community. I'd like to first state that I'm firmly in the undecided camp, basically because I don't know how...
Just so everyone here, you're firmly undecided.
Because I don't know what legalization is going to look like. You know, is it decriminalization? Does it mean that people can grow marijuana in their backyard like they grow lettuce and oregano? Are we going to train pot dealers on the street with pot dealers from Wall Street who there's companies like Tilray, who's a publicly traded company, there's Canopy, there's all kinds of celebrities who are getting into the racket, and I feel weird having super hardcore marketing, especially toward children, and on television and everything. We see what's happening with Juul, you know, it's becoming an epidemic. How are we going to stop that from happening to our kids with bottomless pockets from Wall Street to market these products to our kids? So, you know, if it means that that the state can earn a lot of taxes that they, urgently desire, urgently need, and they want to battle, pot tourism in neighboring states that have legalized it, then, maybe we can think about where we get our tax money and not think about, just us as consumers. And especially in a city like Reading, Pennsylvania, we need business opportunities. We can't just be consumers of marijuana. We need to know that we are able to join the industry and make some money off of it as well, not just the big wigs out there. I'm not on this money. Here's what I've seen in a month. Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
How you doing? I'm Bill Rose. I'm here on behalf of Pennsylvania Bikers for Justice. We've been researching this topic for over 3 years now, and we found an overwhelming support for legalization of marijuana. But we found a deeper problem in reviewing this, and it's the problem of the legislators' refusal to listen to their constituents over special interest groups. Okay? It's nice that you ask your mother, but you should be listening to the majority of your constituents, not one woman. Okay? The majority of constituents should decide whether this is legalized, not any legislator's personal feelings. The legislators are supposed to do the will of the people. Anymore. Now, these ridiculous stories about the public policy problems and things like that and what type of effects, be real. People are already using marijuana. They don't care that it's illegal. They want to use it because it's their choice. And they want their freedom respected. And that's what they're doing, is denying people's freedom. And it's time it ends now!
About the suppliers, why can't we just have several big companies or the government supply it, and we have to have a framework so that they can operate with? And my other concern is, why can't we go to marijuana pills that would cut out all the smoke and vaping? I hear vaping is pretty big now. That's all I really have to say.
To clarify, are you pro or con or undecided?
I'm pro.
You're pro. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Luke Schultz. I'm a lifelong resident of Berks County. I support the full and complete legalization of the cannabis plant. I believe it should be regulated like tomatoes and peppers that I grow in my garden. It's my natural right as a person of this earth to grow, possess, and use plants. I wish to use fresh, raw cannabis for its nutritional and medical benefits. When fresh, raw cannabis is eaten, it does not make you high. I'm not personally interested in getting high. If you are, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. I'm interested in improving my health. I'm a Pennsylvania medical marijuana patient, but fresh raw cannabis is not available as a product option. It's simply not logistically feasible. So I'd have to grow my own. But if I do so now, I can be thrown in jail. Homegrown cannabis has to be part of any legislation plan and legalization. If you don't want to use cannabis, then don't. If you don't want your children to use cannabis, then teach them not to use it. It's called parenting. If you're concerned about people driving under the influence, there's already laws against that, and our police are trained to detect impaired drivers. If you don't think cannabis should be legal because it's prohibited at the federal level, take a stand. The federal government is wrong. That's right. Stop us from establishing a medical marijuana program. This is a states' rights issue. Cannabis was made illegal by the federal government for the reasons of racism, ignorance, and greed. Finally, a few thoughts on the so-called gateway effect. where somehow using marijuana will compel you to go on to using hard drugs. It's not true. The theory has been debunked so many times that the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, was forced to remove that statement about it from their website because it wasn't true. You don't believe it? Look it up. One final paragraph. For perspective, in 1972, approximately 8 million people in the U.S. were regular users of marijuana. That number has risen as the population has risen to where, as of 2017, we have about 26 million people in the U.S. who use marijuana. We also have around 5 million people who use illicit hard drugs. If the gateway theory was accurate, then when can we expect those 8 million people from 1972 to use hard drugs, because it hasn't happened in 47 years?
Thank you for doing this listening tour. This is really a very good move. I think it's a healthy thing for our society, so thank you very much. My name is Keith Grillhart, and I want to say my grandmother was a member of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, so she was very active in getting alcohol prohibition in place, and she believed the drugs were evil and so on. I never had the heart to tell her that I started smoking pot at the age of 15. I don't think she would have accepted it, that it just didn't match up. But I've done a number of good things I'm proud of in my life. One of them was that for 10 years, I spent about an hour every day formatting news articles for an online database of news reporting on drug policy. We didn't take sides, but I couldn't see the prohibition of marijuana. I could see the prohibition of marijuana has taken an awful toll on society, and that people who are paid to further this policy often do not play straight with the facts. I'm no longer involved with that effort, but I see the prohibitionist arguments are still the same. I don't know how they can sleep knowing the damage they cause, but they dig their heels in and put in many hours, fully paid by us, the taxpayers, to word their sentences just so they can imply harm from marijuana without actually saying it. Along these lines, every year, the Rocky Mountain High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area releases a taxpayer-funded report designed to show that marijuana legalization in Colorado has caused damage. In 2012, Colorado voters approved Measure 64, legalizing marijuana with 55% of the votes in favor. In 2015, Quinnipiac University polled Colorado residents, and 58% were in favor of the law after over a year of it being in effect. I saw it myself visiting, and it was very reasonable, and people spoke well of it. The Rocky Mountain High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area released a report saying that support had gone down, contrary to fact. In their annual reports, they've been claiming traffic fatalities associated with marijuana have increased, which they claim because they required 100% testing for marijuana starting the year it was legalized. That's in cases of fatal accidents. Before that, a coroner wouldn't spend the money to test for marijuana in a corpse reeking of alcohol. But afterwards, if that corpse had marijuana metabolites in the blood, it became a marijuana-related fatality. That distorts the information from which statistics are made. That's an example, and I see this being rehashed by some of the Pennsylvania district attorneys. I wish they wouldn't do this, but in any case, I'm solidly pro. I will take my seat. Thank you.
My name is Mary Biddy-Punst. I'm from Milton, Pennsylvania. I was in college the first time in the 70s, and everybody was smoking pot. Nobody jumped off buildings. Nobody did any of the things that they said were going to happen. Nowadays, there are breweries and wineries popping up all over the place. That's not only fine, it's encouraged. They have big parties. I just think it's asinine that there's such a double standard. If alcohol is totally legal, fine, encouraged, why, when somebody wants to smoke a joint and go for a walk in the woods, is that illegal? I'm very much pro-legalization. That's it.
Well, somebody has to be against it, and that looks like my biggest concern, well, my first concern is for the people whose career depends on remaining drug-free, having their careers destroyed because they, whoops, sorry about that, because they inhaled some stranger's marijuana smoke. And we know how passive cigarette smoke affects people who don't have the cigarettes. And I fear the same thing will happen with the marijuana smoke. Now, if it's an issue of money, I don't see any problem with increasing the fines for, I'd say maybe 50% tax, an additional 50% tax on their income. That would increase the money far greater than surrendering, which is what what is being proposed by the legalization. It's surrender of, it's the surrender of a battle because some people think we can't win it. And there are many stories on how hopeless struggles succeed. There are too many to mention here. And for those interested in right and wrong, I have it on suitable authority that the use of drugs inflicts very grave damage on human health and life. Their use strictly, except on strictly therapeutic grounds, is a grave offense, and the clandestine production and trafficking of drugs are really bad practices, and they contribute direct cooperation to the evil since they encourage the people to practice the grave evil.
May I ask you two questions quickly to clarify your position? You're opposed to the recreational aspect. How do you feel about the medical cannabis?
The key word is therapeutic. Therapeutic, I don't mind because...
So you're okay with medical marijuana?
But not the recreational.
Okay, one last question. How do you, what's your views on decriminalizing marijuana?
For recreational use, it should remain outlawed, and like I said, we should have the increased fines instead of surrendering.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right.
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of panic attack here. Thank you for having this tonight. I'm very grateful to come out and speak. I came out to the Lancaster tour, but ended up getting stuck in the lobby, and I wasn't able to participate, so I'm sorry to everyone from Berks County for borrowing a bit of your time. But one of the things that I see in this legalization argument is people just don't see things from my perspective. And my perspective is one that is rooted in, when I was younger, I got into a lot of trouble. And my gateway drug was tobacco and then Ritalin. And when I was on the Ritalin, it was really messing me up, and I started using the Ritalin. And I subsequently started smoking pot at the same time. And when my doctor found out that I was smoking pot, experimenting with illicit drugs, he immediately told my mother and I that we had to leave the office and we were never allowed to come back, and that they don't treat drug addicts. And I don't think that that's a very good approach. You know, I think a much better question would have been things like, why do you use this substance? How does it make you feel? And these are things that we are just now discovering. That same mother called the cops on me and had me sent to a boot camp for possession of seeds and a bomb. That same mother recently, in the past few months, we started a discussion about CBD because she's now a licensed nurse practitioner. And we started talking about CBD, and neither of us really understood anything about it. And as we began to do our research, we learned a lot. And she is now absolutely in favor of CBD, which led to learning about medicinal marijuana and some of the things that are going on in other states that we don't understand. Her nurse friends are going to conferences and coming back and saying, Stephanie, you don't understand, they're curing cancer with it. Don't take me on that. That's a deep conversation. But anyway, but there's something that I haven't seen in any of these conversations, and that's a lot of the pain that's going on, except for this one young lady back here. And, in my years of going through the system, I was able to kick drugs, and turned my life around completely. I'm now a well-respected professional photographer. I don't like Lancaster, but I come up here in Berks a lot and tell people to come up here because I really like it up here. But yeah, I mean, my experience was one where I saw a lot of pain because when I did my time in state prison, I went to the law library and I became what you would call a jailhouse lawyer, except I was actually being trained by someone who was a lawyer but likes to smoke crack and rob banks, unfortunately. But he trained me well, and so I spent my entire time in prison working on myself, but also working on these other people's cases and not taking other people's words for it. Just one second. This is not me taking an inmate's word on their story. This is me combing through their evidence, combing through their transcripts, combing through every piece of documentation that they have and seeing where the corruption happens, where people are walking down the street. And if you have money and you have pot, you must be selling drugs because you're in the hood.
Again, I would just encourage you, as I did the other young lady, you have small possession charges or anything like that on your record, apply for a pardon.
I'm sorry, it was armed robbery and there's no redemption.
You speak in, maybe hold on.
My name is Joanne Bland, and I'm here to talk about my son. He started on marijuana when he was 14. I never knew about it until he was 17. He was up, we did have him committed to the mental hospital up in Harrisburg, and he was up there for about a year and a half. He came home as an outpatient, and so he ran into a lot of crazy things happened to him. One of them was his dog. He had a dog as a puppy, and he was saying to me, "That dog is just evil. He's evil." I came home from work one day and neither the dog nor he were there, and I looked around and noticed there was some blood on the floor, and it went out the back sliding door. And I looked out there, and it looked like there was a plot of land that had been dug up about 6 inches. And I went in the house and I called my husband, because my husband was closer to him than he was to me. And I said, "Where's Tom?" And he said, "Well, Tom went up to that summer cabin we have." And I said, "Well, where's the dog? I can't find him." And it turned out he had killed the dog. And he took the dog up there and he buried him. And he said, I called him on the phone and I said, why'd you do that? And he says, the dog was evil. And when I killed her, the blood came out in the form of rats. That's what he said. Another time he called up and he went out with some of his friends. And he called me and he wanted me to go and get him. He was down in town. So I said, "Well, where are you?" And he said, "Well, I'm under a car." And I said, "Well, what do you mean you're under a car?" He was under a car. He was afraid.
Sure.
So I said, "You better get out from under the car."
I'm so sorry for the anguish and the awful ordeal. So is it safe to assume that you are against the legalization?
Yes, and people don't realize what it will do to you.
Okay.
He was on suicide.
Okay. Thank you for having the courage to share your story.
I'm EJ and I'm pro-weed. I'm not going to say cannabis, that's just like no. But I was born with cancer. I was the first baby born in New York City with retinoblastoma. So, you know, as you go on, chemo and radiation happens, you go through hell. Sooner or later, your mom don't want you because she don't want to put up with it. So you start smoking pot at 12. You start going through life and seeing how stuff is working. I'm legally blind. When I smoke, I'm not going to say I don't. When I smoke, it literally helps my vision, calms my anxiety, and helps my PTSD. I've been through so much hell. I'm not going to say certain people's stories, this, that, and the other, but I've been through so much. And when I smoke weed, it is not that I do it every day. When I smoke, it actually relieves some of the pain that I've been through. It releases the anxiety that I'm able to just focus when I'm in school. It releases that one part of me that people don't see. When you smoke pot, it's not that you're smoking all the time to just get high. Sometimes you're smoking to escape. They put you on Ativan, they put you on Zoloft, they put you on all these different medications that they're the gateway drugs to make you go on to the harder part. Me as an 18-year-old that lives on her own, pays her own bills, went and applied for legal marijuana. My doctor looked and laughed at me and said, I won't get legal marijuana. He'll prescribe me Valium for my anxiety, but he won't prescribe me legal marijuana. Which one's worse? The one that's gonna make me have some psychosis, or the one that's gonna not have a side effect on me? But they don't see it as that. They see it as you're 18-year-old, so what if you're living on your own? So what if you've been through cancer? So what if you're still going through surgeries? Your pain is all made up. So we're just gonna put you on medications that soon enough you're gonna be shooting up in the bathroom with everybody in sidewalks. Like, no, weed actually helps. It releases the pain. It's not all about this, that, and the other. If you make weed legal, you know how many drug dealers is gonna lose their jobs real quick? How much? When you buying it on the corner of Franklin from some shady dude wearing sunglasses and a hoodie asking if you was a cop. That's the weed you don't want to smoke. That's the weed you don't want to use. Because you don't know it's weed, you're just confused with it. But when it's actually real cannabis, when it's actually straight up and it's there, they made it legal, so why can't we just use it for recreational since they don't want to give everyone a legal marijuana card because they assume you're just going to use it for fun.
Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you.
No problem.
I'm in a medical marijuana camp, but tonight I changed my mind for legalizing recreational. The reason being is when you legalize it, it's going to be cleaner. Right now, because it's illegal, people are still smoking it. People still get it, and like that lady said, there could be fentanyl in there could be K2 in there, who knows? If we legalize it, it's going to be cleaner. The other thing too is, if we legalize it, the cops won't arrest people. They can focus on crime. If you've been in Reading, there's a lot of crime going on in Reading. It's been cleaned up the last couple of years, but people that were there know about it.
So did you say at first you were opposed to recreational?
Yeah, I was opposed to recreational.
And you changed your mind?
Right, because the other side. The other something that people aren't talking about is that if you legalize it, recreational, the prices for medical marijuana go down. When you have more companies come to Pennsylvania and grow more, the prices go down. So when you have people who are fixed incomes or that are poor, that right now they're spending hundreds of dollars for things to help them be able to walk and function in a day. If more marijuana comes to Pennsylvania, that can be cheaper. So then there's a lot of people that talked about it, but the black market dismantling is huge. Cops won't be focused on arresting people, and I'm also in the pro raw cannabis camp.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having this opportunity to speak in this forum. I just wanted to ask you a question. You've been to a lot of counties. Did anyone bring you any samples? I bought you some. Like 90-some%. This comes from a flea market in Washington, D.C. Hit ones, $35. They have a great website. Actually, I pay less than $35 for this, but they won't ship it to me in the state of California. More hit ones. This one's great. Brass knuckles. Look at the packaging. It comes with a gram of liquid cannabis oil. You just go another package. Oh, and there was this great package too that was really, really, really tasty. This was about $60. I get these everywhere. It's already out of control. Exeter Township was just in the paper last week or 2 weeks ago. Somebody received 78 packages in 2018. It was until 2019 that they called on and got a search warrant. When I opened up these packages, there were hundreds of these cartridges and ounces of pot.
it's, you know, it's time for us to like get on it. We're missing out on a lot of tax dollars. And just for one time note, I do like Seagram's BO Canadian whiskey, and I won't buy it in the state of Pennsylvania. I go to Delaware every time I go to the airport, and I save myself $700 a year by going to Delaware. If any of these states are looking for us, you know, we're missing the boat. Thank you very much.
I'm against marijuana.
You're opposed, okay.
Not the medical part, just the smoking part. And the only reason.
I'm sorry, so what was that?
Not the medical part, but the smoking.
So you're pro-medical, okay. One quick question before you say, how do you feel about decriminalizing marijuana possession?
Yes,
You are for that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, please continue.
But there's only two things that I'm against. One is driving on the highway. There's so many people out there, it's like a racetrack anymore. You know, with the speed demons and the Texans and the drunks out there flying. Then you have people that are smoking pot, you know, combined with alcohol, just like it had in the Red Eagle. An increase of accidents, severe accidents were due because of alcohol and drug related. The other one is children. I don't care how you slice it. When you got children at home, little ones, and you're smoking pot in the house, and they're inhaling secondhand smoke, you can't tell me that ain't gonna affect them, especially little babies and stuff like that. Because if people smoke regular cigarettes in the house, they'll smoke pot in the house. And I don't go along with that at all. Plus the teenagers, they look at their parents and go, well, they're smoking pot, why can't I? You know what I mean? Just like years ago, you know, you might have stole a cigarette from your dad's pack. Same with marijuana.
Thank you so much for sharing your views. All right, so you have the floor.
My name is Jerry Fiorentino, and first of all, thank you guys for doing this. This is a great forum for us to get our word out there. Thank you for doing the medical program. It's changed my family's life. I'm a caregiver. My wife is a patient. She is a medical mystery. She has been to doctors. We used to live up in New York. She went to every specialist up there. We moved here. We've been to Johns Hopkins, Penn, Hershey, everywhere. Everybody's throwing their hands up in the air. Everybody wants to prescribe her opioids to deal with the pain. Nobody wants to deal with the root cause. This has been the only thing that has helped her get through the day and be a better parent. That not for nothing for anyone else who wants to say something about kids in the house. We have a 4-year-old daughter who knows that this is medicine. That instead of going to CVS or Rite Aid to get medication, she knows the word dispensary and she knows what it means. Parenting is a big education. It blows my mind how many people are still lost in how I was raised, to think that this stuff was evil, to think that this stuff was on the same par as heroin and cocaine and everything else. This is making people's lives better. We can go to a supermarket and buy cigarettes. We can go to a supermarket and buy alcohol. That's all regulated. For anyone who has a problem with people getting behind the wheel, you're not supposed to drink behind the wheel. People are going to do what they're going to do, yes. And they will suffer the penalty for it. But my wife should be able to go and be able to get, just like I can go to Wawa and get a pack of Marlboros, my wife should be able to go and get her medicine that's going to help her get through the day. Very, very pro-recreational. I want to be able to grow it in my backyard right alongside my tomatoes, my lettuce, my basil. I don't have to worry about anything else and what they're putting into it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And
I'm from Leesport. I'm a healthcare provider. I am a proponent of medical marijuana. Basically undecided with recreational, but I think I'm against recreational, and here's why.
So, just to clarify, so you're pro-medical, you're undecided, but leaning against recreational? Okay.
That is correct. And the reason being, I've taken care of a lot of people with COPD and lung cancer, things caused by smoking and other inhalants and whatnot. My concern is when you approach legislation, how about, are you going to legislate the potency of the marijuana? Cigarettes, historically, you know, we have warnings now on our, for decades now, smoking is bad for your health, causes cancer, blah, blah, blah. The corporations go to e-cigarettes. They start out with one thing, and the potency now is up 2 to 3 times more. We have a lot of problems with the 18-year-olds and their, you know, the neural system is not completed yet, and they're still under development. So my concern is about the potency, that needs to be taken care of, legislated, and there needs to be oversight on that to be sure that the corporations or dispensaries are not, you know, producing, you know, very high potent marijuana that's going to cause, you know, auto accidents or whatever out on the highway. The bottom line is, what is this going to cost the taxpayer?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Okay?
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Rihanna. I'm a citizen of the city of Reading. I'm a member of the Sunrise Berks Hub, and I support the legalization of recreational cannabis. I am the daughter of 2 addicts and a family of people who have struggled with substance abuse. I have lost friends and family to alcohol. I have lost friends and family to opioids, but I have never lost anyone to cannabis. Cannabis is used in lieu of harder, more dangerous, more addictive drugs to remedy physical and mental pain. But barriers to accessing comprehensive health care stand in the way of people's ability to gain access to medical cannabis. Meanwhile, as a Schedule I drug, I have watched my friends and family lose their rights to good jobs, to health care, and to the right to vote because they were incarcerated or charged for drug-related charges over cannabis. The physical and emotional well-being of people should not be leveraged to keep people incarcerated. When we are in the middle of an opioid crisis with little resources for recovery in the Berks area, and when immigrant families are being incarcerated for seeking asylum in the Berks Family Detention Center, we need the revenue and legalization from cannabis to combat the opioid crisis. Convert the detention center to an opioid treatment facility and shut down Berks.
Hello, my name is Lawrence Gilden. I'm from Burke Township, and I think I have a story to tell you. Might be quite interesting. I started smoking marijuana back when I went to Penn State. I went to Penn State County.
Sir, will you speak more into the microphone, please? And please feel free to dislodge it and hold it if you'd like.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. All right. So in '66, I started at Penn State. I was involved in smoking marijuana at first. Some of my friends were, a number of them. We migrated to hashish. Maybe some of you will be happy to later on say. There was a time some of my friends one of my friends is a very good friend. He was almost a state champion wrestler from Lancaster County. Very well built, they take him on, he said, come on, I'm gonna take you on and wrestling. Well, he did a number on me real quick. So I learned my lesson from wrestling with him. But he did continue on from marijuana to hashish, to LSD, to psilocybin, and people would take drift stand inhalers and whatever, and pop them open and move them together and drink it with a glass of milk, and before you know it, there was a lot of issues that were accumulating. Well, this young gentleman, I don't know if he's alive or dead anymore. I'm 70 years old now, but I am in speech class at Penn State. Was kind of like an outsider speaking for the legalization of marijuana. Through the years, I've come to a totally different conclusion. Being that I see my grandchildren, I see a state where they live. My children live in Oregon, the state that's legalized marijuana at recreational use level. New York State, my daughter, she lives there. It's in limbo land right there. But I worry about what I see in Oregon. Oregon, they come up from I-5. There are people that are traveling in Costco carts, Walmart carts, with all their belongings, just moving up I-5 from California through Oregon to Washington State.
Sir, to bring this, are you pro, are you con, are you?
I think you can kind of gather that, John.
What's that?
I think you can gather what I'm coming to.
I would never speak for you, sir, I just.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna, you let me speak and I'll get to my point.
I am letting you speak for you.
Okay, now, this is an open forum, sir.
It is an open forum with a 90-second limit because you have a lot of people behind you.
Representatives here, we have representatives here, you're the Lieutenant Governor. We're the constituents, we're the people, you are the servant. So tell them what you're
Sir, I would just respectfully ask, in the next 15 seconds, please, kind of land your plane and just where you're at on the subject.
Well, on the subject of medical marijuana, I think it's a very good thing.
Okay.
And
on recreational.
For the one girl that spoke about anxiety problem, as you all understand, up here, the legislators in the last few days, anxiety has been improved as part of the medical marijuana platform. You can have it under certain things. And you have to understand medical marijuana is different in form than just recreational cure.
It's no different.
Yes,
there is difference.
So are you opposed, sir, to recreational marijuana in Pennsylvania?
I'm opposed to recreational marijuana because I think it affects people from very different standpoints. I've seen people go downhill from it. And you see what you've done with cigarettes. What is out of the cigarettes in the state of Pennsylvania?
I would just ask so that you relinquish the microphone and let us move on.
I'd like you to see the CDC report regarding the effects of marijuana on people.
Okay.
You'll be enlightened.
All right, thank you. Okay. All right.
Hello, my name is Sam for the legalization of recreational and medical use of marijuana. Coming from a family where addiction is a problem, I do not trust opioids. I don't trust myself to not get addicted to them, knowing that addiction can run into a family. I think that we should legalize, I think that we should legalize recreational and medical marijuana because, I lost my train of thought, I'm so sorry. I think we should legalize and decriminalize the possession and usage of marijuana. Coming from a family where my brothers have had years taken off their life for non-violent drug offenses involving marijuana. My brother has a son
recreational, we're not talking about Berks County.
That can be used as an opioid addiction treatment center. Recreational and medical marijuana. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Sarah Alicia Weft-DeLong, and I am from Michigan originally, where I got to watch the transition from illegal cannabis usage to medical marijuana. And in that transition, I saw my friends being able to provide, thank you. I saw my friends being able to fill in that role as caregiver and provide medicine that helped other friends to be able to live their lives and deal with the kinds of illnesses and ailments that cannabis is able to help. Here in Pennsylvania, I have a friend who couldn't come out tonight because of her chronic illness, keeping her bedridden, and the prohibitive costs of a medical card being outside of her means. And there's a lot of people who are like that who can't afford the medical. And so we need recreational. I also live in Oregon. And out there I worked on several farms and for growers, and I trimmed and I saw that there's different kinds of cannabis and there's different things that it can treat, and most importantly, it boosts the economies around it. And if we were able to bring that in here, make it recreational, we could do a lot for not just Reading and Berks County, but for the entire state of Pennsylvania. What we do need, and I could say that Berks County is 12th highest in amounts of people that die from drug-related deaths, or 5th highest in people with HIV. When we don't have options for clean needles, when we don't have good options for dual diagnosis rehabilitation centers, and when we're imprisoning refugee families at this family detention center, which is my right to talk about right now, as we can convert it into a facility to stop hurting families illegally and to start healing our community. Because the fact of the matter is, we are hurting.
Okay, thank you. We need to move on, please. Okay.
We are, and I've used until, sir, can you please get your hand off? My name is people off of opioids with the help of marijuana. And if you refuse to believe that opioid addiction and cannabis are related, then you're not listening. You're not.
My name is Katheria, and I'm pro legalization. The reason I'm pro is because back in high school, one of my friends was in a dark place and he overdosed and died. I'm for legalization because weed helps me with my depression, and I wish that he would have used weed instead. We can easily use the money from weed to help people with addiction. We can use the money from the revenue from cannabis to combat the opiate crisis. If we shut down Berks Family Detention Center, we can use that as an opiate rehabilitation center. I urge you to support this. Shut down Berks!
Okay, thank you. Next.
Hi.
They're talking about the
My name is Mike Morrill. I'm from West Reading. In full disclosure, I'm running for Berks County Commissioner. First, thank you to everybody that was here, my state senator, my state representative, my lieutenant governor, my neighboring state representative. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here. But more importantly, thank you to everybody here who's had the courage to come up and talk about their personal stories and share. That's really important. I'm 100% for legalization of recreational marijuana. Not just that, that's just the first step. If that's all we're doing, then we're not doing the full job. First of all, we need to make sure that when we do it the right way. That we don't turn it over to big corporations who are going to come in. Big corporations that are going to have chain stores selling it. The simplest solution would be to sell it through our wine and spirit shops. We could call them wine, spirit, and weed shops. It's already regulated. We already know that they have good standards there, so that's something that could happen very easily. But we should also make sure that we, if we're going to legalize it, we have local farmers growing it. And this is a great crop. Can you imagine the kind of money we could make here in Berks County growing not just hemp, but cannabis? So, in addition, we need to make sure that we restore the rights of people who have been harmed by these terrible laws that have started with the war on drugs and earlier. First of all, we need to expunge the records of everybody who's been convicted. Second, we need to release the people who are still locked up for marijuana convictions. And we need to say from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we're sorry. We were wrong. We should never have done this in the first place.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Frankie Graham Jr. At this moment, I'm a mayoral candidate for Reading, Pennsylvania, and I'm pro marijuana legally in every way possible. And if elected mayor of Reading, I would work directly with the governor to ensure that we are expunging records and we're helping people to be back in the job market. The reason I'm pro marijuana is because I spent 8 years in the United States Air Force, and I worked with multiple people with suffering from depression and anxiety disorders who were prescribed different medications that did not work for them. And as a side effect for many of these medications, many of my airmen that I worked directly with committed suicide over a 1 year period. In 1 year period at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, I witnessed over 8 airmen commit suicide. After I got out of the Air Force, I've seen more airmen, Marines, and every other person in the other branches suffering from depression and anxiety committing suicide. Already, in this few months, we already have hundreds of military veterans who have committed suicide because of depression and anxiety. And I believe if we legalize marijuana, we will be helping people with medical issues that can be covered with medications. I also believe strongly in giving people second chances with their felony records to be removed. And I would work directly with the governor and his committee and his administration to legalize marijuana and help other people in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Hi, my name is Steve Martin. No kidding, it really is. The reason I'm here is because I think marijuana should be legal. I wake up in the morning feeling nauseous. The only thing that stops me is taking a hit or two. That's all I need. I understand the driving part. I understand the youth part. I have 2 kids. Do I want them doing it? No. I talk to them about it. They feel comfortable coming to me saying, Dad, what do you think? They actually talk to me about it. Because that's what you do, you talk to your kids. And I don't understand all these people beyond Pennsylvania in Washington that want to make it illegal. I think everybody there, so I'm going to offer open invitation to the gentleman who brought the samples, to the gentleman who's against it, to all 4 of you there. After this, come to my shed, we'll all smoke up.
I don't have any kids, but I work in the drug and alcohol police, and I also have addicts in my family. I'm for legalizing it because multiple reasons, because there's people that's in jail going for marijuana and weed, if they're selling it or if they're using it for recreational, because then the rapists and the murderers, they get out easier compared to when it comes to marijuana. We're already making money off of it, why not legalize it and have it be a chain effect in order to open the jails, since the jails are overcrowded. So just legalize it. It does help with back pain because I deal with back pain and I've seen people literally cannot get out the bed for back pain. So I'm for it.
Thank you very much.
My name is Stephanie Tolles, and the issue that I want to address today is that the history of criminalization of marijuana has led to very disproportionate incarceration of our communities of color. And so, When we talk about legalizing it, and I do believe it's a when conversation, because I do believe it's going to happen, but when we talk about legalizing it, I want to make sure that the state of Pennsylvania ensures that there's going to be jobs and opportunities for those communities that have been marginalized and have been the hardest hit by the criminalization of it. I think that it's very important that that be considered from the beginning and that that be part of what's considered going forward. I think decriminalization should happen right away, but as we look forward to total recreational legalization, and we're going to see all these young entrepreneurs come in and all of these millennial startups, we need to make sure that we're giving opportunities for leadership, for entrepreneurship, and for our communities of color.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It's great to see our elected reps out listening for once. So I can't believe I'm about to say this in front of my elected officials. I'm 39 now. When I was 18, I thought I would be slick and sneak off into the woods and with a quarter of pot and smoke a bowl or two with my buddies. Turns out I wasn't so slick. I got popped, and it's been on my mind ever since that it's a sad but statistically objective truth that if the color of my skin had been any different on that day, I might not have my family. I might not have my 2 girls. I might not have my 50 years. He is the most hardworking and responsible individual I've ever met. He has taught me the skills that I needed to succeed in life. He is not a bad person. I am not a bad person. We are criminalizing good people. There is no justice for all good people. That's all I have. Thank you.
My neighbor's son was bipolar, took mental health drugs for it. Unfortunately, he started taking pot, which caused him different side effects, like heart attacks. So my neighbor's son, he was bipolar, took mental health drugs. Unfortunately, he took pot, which was not good side effects, which led to harder drugs. He started chasing the high, and he died in his mid-20s. Sergeant A smoked pot before she joined the Army. She was clean, drug-free for many years. Unfortunately, in 2016, she got back into drugs. She died, overdosed, in September 2017. California had 4,600 drug deaths in 2014. In 2017, it increased to 5,075. In Portugal, they treat every drug offender for treatment, not prison, but treatment, because they didn't want to rehab people. Drug dealers are still criminals in Portugal. Those of us who are pro-medical marijuana use but anti-recreational use have unfortunately lost friends and family due to drugs. The common theme here for everyone that's pro-drugs is what personal possession is acceptable for personal home use. Nonetheless, as adults, we have all made our choices in life. Some will regret, but more importantly, we must all work together to give every child a better future and opportunity to graduate, substance abuse free, be productive, make their own choices in life. We must all work together to help protect and save people from substance abuse, especially innocent children. Thank you.
So, sir, are you pro or con or undecided on recreational marijuana?
I'm against recreational.
You're against, okay. All right. Sir, the other floor?
I am for both medical and recreational. The things that I think that you guys need to keep in mind or when we legalize it is try not to tax the hell out of it like they did in California. Because what people want to do is economics. So go to the lowest seller, and that's probably the guy on the street. So just keep that in mind. I think the way that we're doing the medical part is ridiculous. You go into a doctor's office, you have to pay $125 to be seen. 6 months later, you gotta go and pay another couple of $100, and there's no guarantee. And, it's up to this guy. In California, it was like $30. You paid it, you had cancer, you got the card. It wasn't paid. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Beth.
Becky Ellis, and I just want to state that I am pro recreational marijuana. And the reason for doing so, for example, let's take a look at K2. K2 is synthetic marijuana. I cannot tell you what's in K2. I can't even begin to imagine what it's composed of. However, it's legal in 40 states, including Pennsylvania. K2 is being sold on our streets. At least we know what's in marijuana. And the second thing, to piggyback off of a couple of things mentioned by other people, people of color here in the city of Reading and Berks County are being disproportionately incarcerated in Berks County for possession of marijuana. And that has got to stop. And anything you can do to change that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dee. I'm pro recreational and pro medical. My mom's 76, she still smokes pot. It doesn't hurt you. But I do have a couple questions for you guys. If you have a medical marijuana license, can you still own a gun in Pennsylvania? No. Okay. The other thing is, if recreational marijuana is legalized, do you think it could reduce or eliminate property taxes?
That's speculative. We're here just to hear what you think.
Okay. Well, I think it should be legal. And when will edibles be available? Because my mom's
Once again, that's speculative. So you're pro, and thank you for sharing your story.
I want to say thank you so much for everyone up here for taking the time to be servants to all of us here and be representatives that we need you guys to do so much. So thank you so much for all being here. My name is William Boyer. I'm a homeowner in Hereford, PA. I'm also a voter. And I am pro full legalization, full decriminalization, home grow, and it needs to stay away from our firearm rights as well. I was a small minority that I've never tried marijuana in my entire life. I grew up in a household that had used hard drugs and also had marijuana in it, and so I just abstained from all of it until, well, forever. And in the meanwhile, I had done my research by meeting new people, going off, being involved in the music industry, and I had met these really hardworking, very intelligent, very motivated people. And I also researched about civil asset forfeiture, the disproportionate subjugation of people of color by using marijuana crimes, and the tax money that's being bled from all of us as taxpayers. Over 90% of people that are incarcerated for marijuana possession are non-violent drug offenders. By the time I had learned all this, I was already gainfully employed in a position where I could lose my position if I were to smoke marijuana. So to this day, I've still not had it. But for me personally, I'm fighting, because for me, it's not a matter of a party favor or even medical, because our state's already realized that that's the right way to go about it. But for me, it's about liberty. And it's about doing right by your constituents. A woman that spoke earlier, and she was concerned about her son and the events that happened. Growing up, and I know some people talked about gateway drug as far as marijuana is concerned. Growing up, I dealt, like I said, with this really negative situation in my family. Just this past few years, my mother was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, my father was diagnosed with schizophrenic. Marijuana had nothing to do with the background that I grew up with. And that being said, it's not about marijuana being a gateway drug. These are totally separate things. And we don't have a marijuana problem. We have a mental health problem in this country. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, sir.
First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here tonight. My name is Keith. I'm pro legalization. I promise this is not a filibuster. The 2 points that I wanted to talk about were taxation and regulation. If the regulation is too much, the black market will still exist. Okay, I don't want to buy marijuana. I don't currently buy it from anywhere, but I sure as hell don't want to buy it from California or Colorado or another country. I want to buy it from a guy named Jeff down the road. 3 people do not require permission to grow a plant, and that's what we've done. And as far as taxation goes, for the guy growing it, the guy selling it, or the guy buying it, at what point is the government helping? So why should they get a cut? If they're not helping grow it, if they're not helping sell it, if they're not helping smoke it, those are my concerns to you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Brian Mole. I'm a Pennsylvania medical marijuana patient. I fully support the legalization and medicinal use of marijuana. First off, I'd like to thank you all for putting this on tonight. It's one of the first times I felt like my voice was actually heard in government. I appreciate that. Thank you. Said drugs are bad, drug addiction is bad. And you know, I think pretty much everybody in this room would agree with that statement. However, we're not here talking about drugs or drug addiction. We're talking about marijuana. We're talking about medicine. We're talking about a plant. I started using marijuana at the age of 13. Why did I start at 13? Because you can't get booze in school. You can't get pot at school. It's real easy. Junior high, high school, it's illegal. It's a black market. That's what kids have access to. By making it legal, by regulating it, good chance you're really going to decrease that. Sorry, now we'll go to, that was opinion, now we'll go to facts. The facts are, in the states that have legalized it, stats are good. Violent crime is down, DUIs are down, tax money's up. That's pretty self-explanatory. It's good for the people. I would really request that if it does get legalized, there needs to be a homegrown provision, giving our money to big corporations. That's it. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
My name is Lt Governor, and I help run the largest amphitheater in Berks County, Packard's Amphitheater out in Stroudstown. And we need to stop this war on drugs. I mean, I'm gonna say one thing. One of my best friends was growing pot in Thornville last year. Got run over by the bulldozer. On the state commission gangland. He was murdered by the state police. Murdered. They had bulldozer, they had a helicopter, they had dogs, ATVs. He was growing pot, 10 plant, because that was 9 months, this is actually 9 months ago today. He was growing that for self-medication. There's no world, no way, we're placing this earth that a death sentence should be for growing marijuana. They need to set across the board one price. So it's not a private piggy bank for every doctor that's authorized to do so. They just need to set a price across the board.
Thank you. Okay. All right, sir, you're the last speaker for the evening, so.
I'm the last one. I'm 7 years old. I started smoking in 1965. I'm perfectly healthy. Haven't affected me at all. I'm for it completely. My son Josh was third product, and my whole family smokes it.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have. Oh, okay. All right. Yes. Okay. You're pro legalization. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kimberly. Nowadays I'm a volunteer with young people, but in my youth, I was a pothead. Yeah, for me, marijuana was a gateway drug. It seems pretty simple. If you're going to smoke pot, you're pretty much open to trying other drugs as well. And that was the case with me and my friends. Hash, speed, preludes, LSD, coke. And yeah, marijuana is addictive. So are cell phones, so is the internet. Well, those weren't around then. But I had a rude wake-up call when my father took his own life just before my 20th birthday. In my grief and my pain, I had to come and see that I was committing suicide in my own way. Jesus got a hold of my life and my heart through this, and over a period of years, he called me out of all my destructive behaviors. I believe that marijuana is harmful to the mind and emotions. I know it was to mine. I feel fortunate, I feel blessed that I was able to recover without institutional help, although I needed counseling over the years. I'm almost 60 and I still struggle with addictions. Some of my friends dropped out of school and found a positive direction in life. Now, let's bring legalized marijuana, commercialized marijuana into the picture. I was very upset to read that some other states sell marijuana-laced candy, cookies, and ice cream. Are we so foolish to think that our kids won't be attracted to these kinds of products?
Okay, all right, in the interest of time, you're against the legalization of recreational cannabis.
I'm against, I say, we have to, maybe we do not, adults can deny ourselves one selfish pleasure and think about the young people and not give them any more possibilities to stumble. They have enough to fight with.
All right, thank you. All right.
Hi, I'm Victoria Pickard. I'm a PA medical marijuana patient, and I didn't use marijuana before I became a patient, but was sick for a long time before medical marijuana came to Pennsylvania. And now that I do use this plant, I can't understand how anyone could be against it. It has never made me feel out of control. It's only ever promoted a feeling of well-being. I'm able to do more. I'm able to feel better. I'm able to think about the future and realize that I might not be in pain my entire life. I can get things done during the day instead of laying in bed all day, every day. I can fall asleep at night, depending on what strain I use. Recreational marijuana would be so amazing for people who experience anxiety and depression, but maybe not to an extent that they see a doctor, or if they don't believe that they need to see a doctor, or that doctor might not be able to help them.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I also just want to say that alcohol and tobacco are both legal, and they both have many more negative side effects.
Good evening. I am for the pro-legalization and recreational of marijuana in Berks County. I'm born and raised. Went to the Culinary Institute of America. I have my bachelor's, lived in Colorado Springs on extern. At the age of 22, I chose the entertainment capital of the world. Moved out to Sin City at the age of 22. Served the World Series of Poker in Vegas. And ran one of the largest conventional catering kitchens in the world. Only to move home to Berks County to watch my brother wrestle his senior year. Got a motorcycle, only to get hit by a drunk driver. Crossed the yellow lines that hit me head on. Only to get left to burn alive in the middle of one of the busiest intersections in Berks County. That chick fled the scene. She served 10 months and walked out on work release in less than a month. You don't read stories like that in the newspaper. My family has owned and operated a very successful beer sugar in Berks County since the 50s. I'm stuck in a wheelchair because of a drunk driver. Crazy. I've seen this industry come into PA long years ago. I networked all over America trying to get into this industry, and I rolled into Franklin Labs. It was your ex-politician of planning in PA. He dropped out of politics to team up with the head of the DEA and launched Franklin Labs in Colorado. They have now landed Berks County licensing and want the research grow for all the tuition money in years to come. It is so corrupt, it's not even funny. I would love the opportunity to open my own brand and somehow micro cannabis and open my own business someday, entrepreneurial.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you, Berks County.
People with disabilities, they couldn't stand in line.
Okay, all right.
You said I could talk.
All right, briefly though, I would just say.
You said I could talk a while ago, because I couldn't stand.
Well, do you have, if you can't stand, yes, you can speak now. You just have to.
Well, I just want to say thank you for coming out here. My name is Walter Young. I am a medical marijuana patient. And I know everybody's worried about our young children. Well, I'd like to introduce you to my daughter. And I've watched my daughter's life be ripped apart for the equivalent of 2 joints. While she watched me as a medical marijuana patient who was dying be targeted by the police. Because my daughter's a medical marijuana patient now too. A simple thing, teach your children. I have a 14-year-old at home who knows everything about marijuana. She can teach a lot of you stuff. I've watched her go to bat for me with her teachers because she was taught well. If you're worried about your kids doing something, teach them well. I have 2 of them at home, and neither one of them abuse it. My 14-year-old wants nothing to do with it, but she's watched it help me. I've lost 90 pounds of my body weight. I have a medical condition. They don't know what's killing me. I was taking 13 pain pills a day. Cannabis has got me down to 2 and saved my life.
Hello, my name is John Bailey. About a month and a half ago, I was in the Ready Eagle, a couple pages for running around the country for 25 years, being homeless, hitchhiking. I'm an addict and an alcoholic. I'm in remission, so to speak. I don't smoke pot, and I never really did, because I always had my pills from the time I was around 10 years old. What you're doing is great. I am so pro. I don't know how to get medical marijuana to try to help my condition, but all I do know is that from your history, sir, I know friends of yours from Brad, Dave, Fossil Free Fuel. You have a truck, or used to have a truck that was mine, Ford truck, that you bought for the community. You are a community-minded person, and thank you for coming and for making this.
All right, thank you, Berks County. Okay, a couple quick questions for you. All those in favor of adult recreational use, please raise your hand so we may document. Aye. For legalization. Aye, so we may document that. All those opposed, no. Adult recreational cannabis. No. Please keep your hands up so we may document that. No to adult basic use cannabis. No. Okay? Sir, one hand please at a time. Thank you. All right, thank you. Now, all those undecided, I'm in the middle of the road. I don't know. I see 2 hands. Is that accurate? 2? Undecided? Okay. Thank you, Berks County, for a great evening.